All right, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy, Ernest Dove. Let's talk some full minor league baseball action. All the affiliates were in play through the weekend, minus a little rain delays, I believe, postponements in Binghamton. But there was at least 2 to 3 games at every minor league level. I'm here to try to break it all down for you. Obviously, I'm Mr. Positive, so I want to go through all the highlights, aka all the positive prospects up and down the system. Kind of talk a little bit about as many of them as possible because I know you guys love it. Let's talk as much minor league prospects as possible. I want to start from the highest level again. I want to go from AAA all the way down to end this segment talking about my St. Lucie Mets. So, again, sticking to the older guys, we got to stick to the older portion of the older guys in AAA because honestly, prospects or not, when you talk about AAA and Syracuse Mets over the weekend, might as well first start talking about the older-ish veteran guys. Some of the standouts through this weekend include Joey Meneses, who's quietly still hitting, mostly just playing all first base with the Mets organization since he came over. So he's hitting .333, so he's basically, I think, 3 for 10. Or 3 for something, 11. He has a few hits. He has a walk. He's kind of the highlight of sorts for the offense. I mean, it's be interesting to see if he's one of those guys that could be the next man up. Obviously, we see the struggles with some of the players, especially Beatty. I just don't know if, any decisions could be made at some point at the major league level. And if it's like, well, Dove, who are we bringing up from AAA? It could be one of the older guys like Meneses that gets called up. I know Walton has a couple of hits as well, but he's more of the infield guy. Meneses more of the 1B / maybe DH, depending on the situations and what the need could be. But again, it's a positive thing. And again, for the older guys, the Anthony Gose, he has 3 scoreless appearances so far. But perhaps looks can be deceiving. But again, he's a lefty reliever. I'm looking at you, Danny Young. He has a total of 4 innings, only allowing 1 hit through 4 innings. But he also has 3 walks and only 1 K. So he's been making it interesting every outing with his command. But it's going to be something curious to look upon during even the early season as a lefty reliever outside of A.J. Minter when you get into the Young conversation at some point. Would a guy like Gose be the one to be brought up? Obviously, there's also my favorite, of course, my heart, Deadneil Nunez. He gave up a couple of runs now in his 3rd appearance. I believe he has 2 scoreless appearances that were dominant. In his last outing, he gave up a couple of runs. But even in his last outing, 12 of his 15 pitches thrown were for strikes. So you know what? He's still making his way back. He's still looking really good. The velocity is still 96 plus since he came back, 96, 97, right out the gate pitching for Syracuse. And he's throwing strikes. So I can't downgrade giving up hits and a couple of runs. But again, the strike throwing is there. Probably more what you want to see anyway from a guy who's rehabbing or a guy like Nunez who just has been medically cleared and ready to go, but he's starting off at a slower, delayed kind of situation, starting in Syracuse rather than with the New York Mets. Also because he has that option that's been remaining. That's why he's been optioned. As far as an actual prospect, over the weekend, Brandon Sproat, who had a rough first outing, had his second outing that went a lot better. 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 2 Ks. The fastball is still going to be 96 plus. So it's still good to have Brandon Sproat hopefully getting back to normal. And obviously maybe as the weather heats up, maybe Sproat will heat up. I believe the conditions might have been pretty rough weather-wise in his first outing. But again, obviously Dove making his excuses. But that's pretty much most of the AAA really to talk about. The entire lineup is kind of veteran-ish guys that have been bouncing around different organizations. So those are the main guys I wanted to talk about. In AA, this entire segment in AA is going to be about the arms. Hitting-wise, we can talk about Jet Williams. He has a couple of hits. He has a walk. He was actually caught stealing. So he wasn't typical Jet Williams when he had a game of like a hit and a walk. It didn't come with a stolen base because he got caught in that one little game. So he kind of looks okay still. His extreme small sample size on base percentage is like 375, which makes sense. It might always be high for him, especially in the minor leagues. But he's just got to get going. And even a shout out to maxmets.blogspot.com. One of their writers did some interviews in the last week, and even Jet talked about he might be seeing more center field more and more as the season goes on, which to me makes sense. Even for the Double-A, hopefully soon to get promoted Triple-A level, it might make sense for him to play a whole lot of center field more than second and short, which is things he could still play, obviously. But center field could be his key all the way up to the majors sooner rather than later. But then it's back to the arms. First, we have Jack Wenninger. I've been talking about him a little bit since last year. I talked about him even more this past offseason going into this year because the coaches love Jack Wenninger. Again, the coach told me, I don't think he's peaked yet. And then here he is, sure enough, showing up in Double-A, 5 innings, 2 hits, 0 runs, 2 walks, 7 Ks in 5 innings. This is going to be an interesting arm to look at. The velocity, you could always look at it, 93, 94. Can he top 95? Let's see how he, moves along as far as velocity level. But he has a nice, solid assortment of pitches, and he is already a shutout to begin the season. Be on the lookout for Jack Wenninger because he's not the most talked about guy, but he could be among the top arms in the Mets organization into next year. He might be the most talked about names that we're going to bring up. As far as the reliever situation, happy fun weekend for the lefty Daniel Juarez, who went 1 1/3 innings of hitless with a walk and a K. I want to bring him up because he had a really rough 2024 after basically being pretty dominant throughout his pro career all the way up to 2024 when the numbers all skyrocketed. That's why he's repeating Double-A. But again, good start. I just want to say it's a solid weekend for Daniel Juarez, who looked like a very, very good upper minors lefty reliever until last year happened. So let's see if that was a blip. Maybe it's the major league version of guys with relievers and pen arms who are always fickle. Hopefully, Daniel Juarez now is kind of back to normal because he'd be an interesting guy to see at the Triple-A level as a next man up kind of lefty arm because he could be one of those guys who could be very helpful at the major league level. Another reliever is Trey McLaughlin, who pitched 1 2/3 innings of hitless ball with 0 walks and 3 Ks over the weekend in Double-A. It's kind of what he probably is going to do most of his time there because he doesn't belong in Double-A. It's my opinion, but he's now 25 years old. If you look at his MILB page, his entire pro career has been solid. I don't know why he's in Double-A. It's probably because of all the veterans, because there's veteran bats, there's veteran arms in Triple-A with major league experience. It's probably what's keeping him down here. I don't want to downgrade how good he did in this opening weekend because I just think this is what he's going to do while he's stuck in Double-A. So shout out Trey McLaughlin. Hopefully you get back to where you belong. And then see, can he reach the majors from there? But I think he has the stuff 100% to play in Syracuse. Nolan McLean, let's talk about the wiffle ball. Now all the highlights are showing up. He's 4 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks for Nolan McLean. That's probably one of the biggest stats. 8 strikeouts in 4 innings. And if you've seen some of the videos online, it makes sense why he had 8 strikeouts because that wiffle ball was moving. And I don't think anybody knew what to do with it. The strikeouts were everywhere. Nolan McLean is becoming one of the most exciting overall prospects in the organization, especially obviously from the pitching side. I was talking about it from the offseason. There was a switch from some of the top arms from last year to this year, rankings-wise. Coming in now through the offseason, it looked like it was going to be Sproat, McLean, and Tong. And hopefully that's how it's going to look now, even out of the opening weekend and into the early going. Those could be the biggest names. So good out on him. Obviously, one of my hearts, I'm going to bring him up because I want to. The lefty, Felipe De La Cruz, had an outing of 3 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs, only 1 walk, which is good enough for me through 3 innings for Felipe De La Cruz, and 3 Ks. Again, he's a lefty arm I've been talking about incessantly for a couple of years now because when you have a lefty arm who can top 95, that's already something you can't teach. I know the development, player development, command issues. Was it all going to be put together at some point? We're now in the put up or shut up time at the Double-A level. So that's why I'm so excited about Felipe De La Cruz's weekend here, because if he can build on this, and again, he's pitching multiple innings. It was my opinion from last year, maybe he should be a full-time reliever, but if he comes into games and pitches 1+ to 3 innings, maybe still keep the innings totals high for him because he's so darn talented. Let him get as much, experience out there on the mound throwing as possible. Let him throw as much of his pitches as possible to get the command better, get the consistency going. Could be a really good idea to maybe leave him in this 2+ inning situation, piggybacking other pitchers throughout the early going in Double-A. The last guy I wanted to bring up who pitched 1 inning, but very successfully, Douglas Oriana. I believe I was trying to hype him even from last year. Coaches told me he was kind of a work in progress, super talent and coachable guy, younger pitcher. So that's why I've been wondering about his development now going into the new year. Again, this is the show me level in Double-A. So Douglas Oriana, it's kind of being a really important year for him in consistency. So far, so good for 1 opening weekend, 1 hitless inning, but more importantly, no walks in the 1 inning to go with his 2 Ks, which probably makes sense. He's a high K rate guy. So again, with him with command, could be an interesting arm to get yourself up to AAA at some point. He might be lower in the pecking order with some of the other guys, especially from starter level. You have the Wenningers, you have McLean, even a Felipe de la Cruz. Between him and Oriana, different ages of sorts, but I consider them on a level of still needing more refinement and development. So he could be on another wave where they may not see AAA for the rest of the year, in my opinion, just to make sure they straighten things out, stick to the consistencies in Binghamton. Over to High A, now we're going to talk about pretty much almost every player on the roster. I was joking before the season started that Brooklyn may have the best affiliate and the best roster in the organization. And then they outscored their opponent 27-5 this weekend. They were just annihilating the other team in all facets of the game. I could start with pretty much anyone, but let me go down the list of everyone's highlights. Even Carson Benj, more of a slower thing, not a bunch of hits, but he's played a couple of games. He has a single, a double. He has 3 walks in his 2 games. And I believe both of his hits are oppo, which is going to make a lot of sense, and it's very important in Brooklyn. You better, as a lefty, put the ball the other way, because if you hit it to right, it's probably going to be in the winds. It's not going to go anywhere. So shout out to understanding the assignment for Carson Benj. Keep it oppo, because that's what's going to be working for him. And again, I like the walks. When you're at the low levels in A-ball, take the walks, please. Don't try to show out and show off, because you don't have enough talented, consistent command arms in A-ball. Take the walks when you can. One guy, I was trying to talk about him a little bit in the offseason, like, hey, we're gonna get a healthy Jacob Reimer now in 2025, because along with the Jet Williams and the Gilberts and everyone else, Jacob Reimer missed most of last year, in case y'all forgot, because again, he was an old high school draft pick, kind of disappeared now. Here he is back in 3 games, 6 for 13 with 2 doubles, a triple, and 2 walks for Jacob Reimer. This is going to be an important, huge development for the entire farm system for a guy like Jacob Reimer to be back well again. Defensively, they're trying to stick him still at third base. That's still a good idea, especially when you have Jesus Baez still coming along slowly now. So that's why they've kept Baez behind in St. Lucie. So that opens the door for a guy like Jacob Reimer to play third base every day. So I want to see how things go overall. I know he can technically play first base, but all his value is going to come from staying at third up the levels. And then you can take it as it comes later in the years of sorts. But this is a huge development for Jacob Reimer to be this hot, showing off even the doubles power in the extreme small sample size. Another guy who's been getting hyped up very quietly as a college draft pick. You don't think a lot super guys, but he's been showing up on the top 30 lists quietly, is Eli Serrano. And he's quietly started off 4 for 10 with a home run and 5 walks through the 3 games for Eli Serrano. He's a guy that probably shouldn't be in A-ball very long. I'm still glad that they had him begin the season in High A. Even college bats, they still need that development. Give them a chance in Brooklyn. But he's a lefty, so now you got to be worried about how you're pulling the ball or not. But this is very exciting stuff for Serrano, especially as an outfielder. For better or worse, the Mets farm system is not totally full on outfielders up and down the levels. So when you have a Benj and a Serrano starting off hot in any way, that could be good for the entire system for the outfield position going forward. Now we got to get to one of my hearts of the entire organization, Chris Suero, who technically you can call an outfielder because he still splits his time between left field and catcher. But Chris Suero is also 6 for 13 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs. So 4 of his 6 hits are extra base hits. I love everything about him. He's one of the youngest players, even in high A. He's still about 21, I believe. I keep being told, even from last year into this year, the catching development is still good. He's still progressing from the catcher position. The staff said they like throwing to him. So that's good news now for the early weekend. Pitchers are happy throwing to him. They even like his progress on their end. They like the progress of his game calling. They like everything what he's doing behind the plate. He has a pretty strong arm as well. So I want to see what they're going to do actually as an organization. What do you do with Chris Suero? For versatility purposes, maybe let him continue to do catcher and left field the whole way, because why not? If you can have that kind of versatility all the way up to a possible major league level, if you have a guy that could be called up as a catcher, as an emergency catcher / corner outfielder, that can have huge value. But again, he's still really young. So with somebody like this, to give him a chance to play both positions, I'm curious to see how he goes. He could probably spend a lot of time in Brooklyn. I don't know when or if he'll get a call up this year to AA, but he'll be fun to watch. Back to the pitching. Noah Hall is a guy who pitched this weekend, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, and 3 Ks. So the command wasn't totally there. But even from my understanding from after the draft, talking to the coaches and some of the scouting department, he was kind of a project guy from what I was told anyway. So he would be one of those surprise arms that you can get really excited about if and when he puts it all together. So you know what? Opening weekend, I'll take it. Only gave up 1 run, so he limited the damage. Obviously, stuff like that in AA, AAA is going to be a lot harder. So you got to get the command going quick. But I'll see it as an overall good, okay outing for the weekend for Noah Hall. But I want to see how he does now in the next couple of months. One of the flamethrowers, the reliever Ryan Lambert, who probably doesn't belong in A-ball, but again, consistency and command, and a guy who needs to get his reps of sorts pitching. He pitched 1 hitless inning with a K over the weekend for Brooklyn. Again, he's a guy that should probably be in AA as soon as things are definitely worked out. Let him get some outings. Let him get a few weeks in Brooklyn. If he's still pumping that 98 to 99 plus, and if he has enough strike throwing, he's a guy you want to see in AA in the second half. So solid weekend for him. One of my favorites for a few years now. He's an old man. He's already 21 at this point. The right-hander, Joel Diaz. I've been talking about him since he was 18. He's healthy again. I think this is his now 2nd year post-Tommy John. And he came out over the weekend, 4 innings, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, and 4 Ks. If he can have more outings like this, the finally healthy Joel Diaz could finally make me happy and pat my own self on the back, because he's going to go up to the system and be back to being a top 20 prospect with this health and command. So shout out to him for the weekend start. The other kind of flamethrower who's kind of older for the level because he's missed so much time since the draft, Dylan Ross, another one of those hardcore 98-plus arms. He pitched a hitless inning with 3 Ks, which, again, probably makes sense. Dylan Ross, with that velocity, with command in A-ball, probably going to strike out almost everyone. So it could be really fun for the box scores to look at. But I'm just excited that Dylan Ross is healthy, and I want to see what he does as well for the next few weeks, month to month. I don't know even when a guy like this can earn a promotion to AA. Long season ahead, but health and timing is what you usually need anyway in this business for the arms. So here's to hoping for continued health for him. The last 2 arms that pitched on Sunday, the starter, Zach Thornton. You can't really even script what just happened in this game. Almost every pitch he threw was a strike, literally. He had over 40 pitches thrown of strikes out of like 50. He was just pumping at strikes. It was mostly cutter, slider. The slider was the out pitch throughout the outing. It was incredible to watch. The coaches were even excited from afar. They mentioned his fastball, which in camp, he's been a low 90s guy. And then all of a sudden through the offseason, the velocity's been ticking up for a lot of pitchers in the Mets organization, including Zach Thornton, who's up to 93, 94. I believe the coach mentioned he topped 95 during this outing, which would be absolutely incredible for the lefty. An arm like this, if he's going 93 to 95 with this kind of command, he's probably a walking future Mets top 20 prospect. So be on the lookout for Zach Thornton's consistency and command. It looked amazing. I want to see how the other pitches go because he has more pitches. So as the season goes and they maybe trust him to start mixing in more of the pitches to get used to it, I'm excited to see because this could be a full-blown, full-time projected starter with his full assortment of pitches once he starts getting all of them going. The final arm in high A is a guy I've talked about as another project arm. Even the pitching coach from college was very excited about Austin Tresser. He said the Mets organization is going to love him, love his work ethic, and there were things that needed to be worked out. He has a backstory of like from freshman year, I think he was a low 90s arm. And then by the end of college for the draft year, he was top of 97 plus. So now it's probably about as a pro, how do you refine all this, figure out the true kind of velocity going forward and the other pitches? Can he mix in secondary stuff with the right command to go with a fastball? So far, so good. He had a 2 innings of hitless ball, 0 walks, and 3 Ks. So I want to see how Austin Tresser does throughout this year. A-ball still makes sense for him because, again, he seems like a guy that needed more development. So regardless of age or coming out of college, and he had some health stuff now, so he needs this healthy start of a season for a while to get in Brooklyn, take advantage of those swirling winds, get the numbers really hot, and he could be a guy to maybe move up at the end of the year. Finally, obviously, it's low A time. Got to talk about the low A ones. Not a lot of offense, but there's a lot of young players for the St. Lucie Mets. Once again, I want to talk about all the teenagers first. You have 19-year-old catcher Daverson Gutierrez, who I hyped up religiously throughout camp because of things I was seeing and hearing behind the scenes. Again, this is very tiny. He's 2 for 7 with a walk. But I'm excited about Daverson Gutierrez. Again, he's a 19-year-old catcher already in low A. That's a good level. It's a pretty high level, especially for a catcher. So I want to see how things develop for him for the year. I could see Gutierrez definitely spending the entire season in Brooklyn, in low A, unless he's just incredible at the end of the year and they want to give him a taste of Brooklyn in high A. But expect Gutierrez most of the time in low A just to see how he does. Can he be a middle of the order type of bat in A-ball? The other guy, 19-year-old Marco Vargas, has kind of done what he does. He has a couple of hits. He has 2 walks because he definitely gets on base. He's been doing it throughout the minors in the Marlins organization. Now he's doing it for the Mets. But again, he missed a lot of time off and on all year last year. So we just need to see what a healthy Marco Vargas can even do. So slow start, but a good start just by being on the field. Now we have still 18-year-old Jeremy Rodriguez from the Tommy Pham trade. He's still 18 until July. He's got 2 hits, 2 walks, 3 Ks. He's played second base and short for the 2 outings, so they still have him kind of going back and forth in the middle infield. But the lefty hitter, so far so good. You'll take what you can take. Maybe extreme small sample size. Let's keep an eye on the K rate for the next few weeks. Again, like it would Gutierrez, and even probably for a Vargas, I can see Jeremy Rodriguez being in low A for the entire season anyway. So let's round things out and see how he does. I know some people online are super excited about him as well when he put up those Barry Bonds numbers in the DSL when the Mets acquired him that summer for Pham. Things are still going good. Again, he's been pushed. He's already in low A at 18 years old. So maybe the organization, obviously, when you push a kid like this, if he starts to thrive and succeed, they may even push him to high A at the end of the year anyway, when he'll be only 19. AJ Ewing, this is kind of super exciting for me. He's 20 years old. I was told from the draft he could be a project guy. Could take a little bit. And sure enough, he's doing okay. He's 2 for 7. He has a triple. He has 4 walks. So this is really cool. I've been mentioning even from camp, I'm worried about the K rate with AJ Ewing. He has 2 Ks in his 2 games, but he also has 4 walks. So if you're going to take the walks, please do that rather than swing at the bad stuff. Again, in A-ball, it's not always the greatest stuff with command. So shout out to AJ Ewing and the walks, because if you keep this up, the power might start to show by summer. I would leave him in low A for most of the year just to make sure we got what we know when we're working with. And he's been in the outfield. So far, he's just played left field, center field. I would leave him in the outfield going forward for the Mets organization, see if he can get in, especially since he has played center field. So if he could at least even stick in center field for a little bit up the levels, that'll create a lot of value for him. Back to the pitching, Irving Cota, one of those kind of kids who's now 21 years old. He's been off and on. You don't really hear a lot about him. And all of a sudden, he came out 2 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 1 K. It looks like he was about 93, 94 over the weekend. He topped 95, at least on 1 or 2 pitches. And he threw an assortment of pitches. The box scores have him throwing a slider, curve, and change over his 2.2 innings. So it's exciting to see a kind of a player you don't talk about much, like an Irving Cota or a guy you don't hear about much. I want to see how he does and progresses. I can see him also just staying where he is in low A to make sure all of these things are refined. Same as for 21-year-old Christopher Gomez, who's been showing off a sinker, slider, curve this weekend. 2 2/3, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 5 Ks for Christopher Gomez. Another young pitcher to keep an eye on, to see these kind of those quasi guys, starter relievers. Maybe some of these guys are more on the reliever end, even already at this point, still at a young age. But in A-ball, I like the idea of them pitching multiple innings so they can get as much experience as possible to work on the command and the structure of their pitches. One of the college arms from last year that the coaches told me to keep an eye on in camp, he debuted this weekend, Frank Elisalt. He had 2 1/3 innings, no hits, 3 walks, and 4 Ks. So a little bit of command stuff. Looks like he was mostly 92 to 94. But Elisalt did top 96, I believe, in this outing, throwing what was listed as a fastball, cutter, and change. But again, Elisalt's a guy I was told to keep an eye on. No hits is always fun. But in A-ball, you got to throw more strikes. Let them hit it one way or another or take advantage of these guys in A-ball. Let's see Elisalt kind of settle in, see if there's more strike throwing, see if the K rate stays high, which it might, because when the coaches talked about how talented he is, if he keeps the walk rate low, the K rate's probably going to stay high in low A. The last pitcher is some guy, you may not have heard of him because he's like never been around. It's like Bigfoot, some guy or some kid or some arm named Matt Allen. Matt Allen shows up after like 20 years and he gets on a mound in low A in professional baseball. First pitch was like 96 to 97. And that's pretty much what he did for 2 2/3 innings. Matt Allen is back. He was given a pitch cap limit of 45. So they did pull him when he got an out on the 44th pitch. So they were not playing around. They gave him a limit. They were not going to let him finish the 3rd inning. 2 2/3, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, only 1 walk, 5 Ks. And I believe it was all 96 plus fastball and then the 89-90 cutter. And he was just dominating, throwing strikes. This is one of those guys, even the higher ups in the Mets organization, they were just rooting for him throughout last offseason into camp. So this has got to be super exciting for the entire front office to see Matt Allen pitching. And I thought he's a pure reliever. I'm like, let him pitch 1 inning and outing all year and get him a AA. But with a 45-pitch cap on opening day for him, it looks like he might want to still be a starter at this point, unless they're just going to have him eat 3 to 5 innings just in case, just to let him pitch, eat innings, and then maybe still worry down the line. Do you want a guy like Matt Allen to just do this 2-pitch mix and maybe be a high-leverage reliever? Or by the end of the year, if all's looking good and he's already pitching 2 2/3 anyway, if he's pitching 45, 60 pitches an outing, maybe do you increase it to 70, 80 by the end of the year? Maybe that's a curiosity to talk about throughout the year. Maybe hopefully you'll learn about it and hear about it from this videos and from these shows. Please continue to support the show the best that you can. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the like button. Check out all the videos that you can. I want to try to grow this channel as high as possible. If I get to that point of monetizing the channel, I'm going to start giving things away. I just need to have something that I can give away. Please This is me groveling. Please continue to support the show. I'm going to be back as often as possible, providing more and more videos and updates on the minor leaguers through the weekend. And I guess that's it.